In today's video I'll be replacing a steering stem bearings, and that will be my last servicing of my Kawasaki Versys 1000 SE. So stick around. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I guess I just created a big confusion amongst my viewers. So let me explain a little bit. Not so long ago I published on my channel the video where I was checking the steering stem bearings, but I didn't found at the time anything wrong with the bearings, so I just put some extra grease on it. That was it. But I did recordings for this video in summer 2025, so it's about 8 months ago. Since then the bearings get a bit worse. It's not a terrible situation, but I can feel that they're not okay. And theoretically I should change them then. I wouldn't have to do it twice, but you know, you learn on your own mistakes. And actually I like to do it that way because I will never make that mistake again. I also just mentioned that this will be the last servicing on my Versys 1000 SE. And the reason for that is I basically sold the bike. It's still here because I'll be replacing the steering stem bearings. And now I'm sure you have a question, why are you doing this, Andy, if you sold the bike? Replacing the bearings and the steering stem is part of the deal that I made with the buyer. To get the price I want, I have to change it. I agreed with that and I bought a new bearings and I'm gonna do that. Of course, to be able to do that I need to remove some of the fairings, but because I sold the bike I will strip the bike to the bones basically. So I'm gonna remove everything because I need to remove some of my accessories on the bike. Mostly it's the wiring, my navigation, extra charging point, you know, these kind of things, and everything is underneath the fairing. So I need to strip the bike anyways. Of course I'm not gonna show you all that process because that's not necessary. There is a video how to undress Kawasaki Versys, so if you have no idea how to do that, just watch the video. I'm gonna put a link somewhere on the screen. I will create even more confusion right now because you see I'm as well busy with my Honda. My Honda is in pieces as well. And the reason for that is I have to fix some minor problems and I'll be selling the Honda as well. So it may happen that I'll be bikeless for a while. So a lot of changes in my kingdom, but that's gonna be for another video. Today we are replacing the ball bearings in the steering stem of Kawasaki Versys 1000 SE. And when I'll be ready with stripping the bike from all of those things, I will explain what it needs to be done. This time I will have to remove forks, so the job will be a bit more complicated, but as I just mentioned, I will explain and show you everything when the bike will be stripped. So I'm gonna do that. For you it's gonna be a second. For me, I guess about a whole day. So see you in a second. So bike is stripped. I already removed the handlebar and of course all the fairings, and now I will begin with replacing the bearings in the steering stem. So let me tell you what I'm gonna do. So of course the steering stem is here And to replace the bearings, I need to remove the steering stem. And that means removing quite a lot of things. So first of all, to do that, I need to remove the forks. But because it is Versys 1000 SE with electronic suspension, I have here these cables that goes to the right and to the left side of the bike. So I will have to disconnect these cables, of course, and I'm going to show you in a moment where are the connectors. And of course, to remove the forks, I need to remove the wheel, the fender, the brakes of course, and I need to remove this splitter for the brake hoses, because it is mounted to the, how you call it, triple clamp. And probably I will have to disconnect the horn as well. And of course then I will have to loosen these two bolts and these two bolts, and one bolt here, one bolt here. And of course I will have to remove this top triple clamp, this bracket as well. It's gonna be a bit challenging, but as I said many times, I'm not afraid. So let's get to work. So I will start with removing the brakes. That's be my first job. So before I remove the wheel and set the bike on a jack, first I need to loosen this bolt from the steering stem, because that one is tightened with 100 and something Newton meters. I don't remember. So I need to do it now when the bike is still on wheels and it's stable. So let's do that. So now it's time to disconnect these cables from electronic suspension, and I'm now on the left side on the bike, and this cable goes here down, goes here, and it's coming somewhere here, and I believe it's a blue connector, so this one. So I need to disconnect, pull the cable back all the way to the top. On the other side we have the same storage, goes there somewhere here, and I believe it's this black connector. So again the same story, I need to disconnect here, pull the wire back, and then I can remove the forks. So let's do that. So as I said, it's this light blue connector. And here we go, blue connector and a loose cable. Now we have to do that on the other side. Definitely black connector. Come on. And here we go, black connector, and now I can remove the forks. And now my fork is ready to be removed. Of course, I cannot forget about the cable. So if you do that carefully, don't damage the cable. And here we go, this is my right fork. Which is working very nicely. So simply speaking, guys, my Versys is now forkless. And right now I can really feel how bad are the bearings. There is a point in the middle where it stops. So they are pretty bad. So if you look closely how the triple clamp behave, look at that. Here is working very nicely. Look what's happening in the middle. Jump. It has this bum. Bum. So somewhere here there is damage on the bearing drive, on the bearing inner ring. Yeah. And now I can feel that when the forks were on the bike with the wheel and I was turning, I couldn't feel that. So, and now I need to gently remove the steering stem from the bike. And this is our steering stem. So guys, let's clean this mess a little. So everything is dismantled. Now it's time to remove the old ball bearings. Of course, the bearings itself, that's not a problem. They're very easy to remove. A little bit more difficult is removing the bearing drive, raceways, or whatever it's called in English. I'm not really sure. But just the other part of the ball bearing. Where is the other one? Let me see. So you see, this is the ball bearing and this is the drive, raceway, whatever it's called. So this ring where the ball bearing is working on. So one is here with bearing on the top, and then we have 3 more. One is sitting here on the steering stem and 2 are sitting here on the bike. And I'm going to show you now how to remove them, and I will start with the most difficult one, which is of course here on a stem. So it's sitting here and the ball bearing, let me see, it's working on it like that. And there is as well a rubber ring which is keeping the water away from the ball bearing, and I have to remove all of that. To remove that I will use, and I'm not joking here, a chisel and a hammer. I have different kind of chisels. And I'm not joking, even service manual says that you need to use a chisel, basically. Of course, you have to be careful to not damage anything around the bearing race. And what is very important, because these parts are made from very hard steel, and when you hammering them with the chisels they can split and they're gonna shoot like the bullets. So of course you need to use a protection. No, not this one. This one, eye protection. So let's do the job. Here we go, guys. Almost. So it didn't went the way I wanted. Oh, come on. But I have succeeded. So the best is not to make any damage in here, but because we are working with chisels, it is likely that you do 1 or 2 scratches. So just take a very small file and just make sure that there is nothing sharp. It's perfect. And that is absolutely fine. Now I'm going to show you how to remove these bearing drives from frame. And you can make for yourself a very simple tool for that. You just need a piece of pipe, steel pipe. It's about 35 millimeters diameter. And what you basically do, you have to cut in 4 places and make this weird palm. Then you have to insert this tool into the steering stem. And here we go. As you can see, my pipe is pushing the bearing drive. So all what I have to do is just with the hammer hit the pipe on the top, and my bearing should very nicely leave its place. So let's try it. It's going very nicely. As you can see, it works like a charm. So the pipe is basically pushing the bearing drive outside. No hammering, no damage, no nothing. Of course, when the drive is removed, it's a good idea to check if there are no cracks in here. It doesn't look like, I don't feel anything. One is done, now the other one on the top. So very simple, but very effective tool. So the bearings are removed and I have here new ones, but I won't be installing these very bicycle like ball bearings. I'm gonna install proper bearings, which are much better and that are tapered bearings. Much better. So of course I need to install the drives in the frame, and I need to install one of those on the steering stem. And there are of course new rings as well. Okay, let's do it. So first of all, very important thing, to clean everything nicely, because if you leave any dirt, it's gonna end up in your bearings, and that's not the plan. So I'm gonna start with the difficult one, because there's not so much access right now. If I would remove the petrol tank, it would be easier. So I'm just gonna put just a little bit grease so that my bearing drive goes smoothly. That's gonna be very delicate job, because as you can see, the bearing drive is very thin and it's made from very hard steel. If you hit with something sharp, it's just gonna break. So I'm gonna use for that my soft hammer. Now I'm gonna basically use the old bearing to drive new one into place, which won't be easy. Well, I hope you'll be able to see what I'm doing. My camera stative is not long enough. So basically 1 millimeter at a time, or even less. Slowly, slowly I need to push the bearing in its place. Okay, I have about 1 millimeter more. And now you can hear that the sound is much different. It's very metallic, which means that the bearing drive ring, whatever you want to call it, is in place. I didn't make any damage, that's most important. And maybe you'll be able to see there's as well the grease that I used is pushed outside. So that means that the bearing drive is in its place all the way down. So now I have to do exactly the same job on this side. Okay, we need about 2 millimeters more. That's going nicely now. A little bit more. Yeah. Light, cables, cameras, everything is on my way. I think you can already hear the difference in the sound. We are definitely in. Give me back. And again you can see the grease came out in here, so we are definitely on the end. So next part, guys, is to install the bearing on a steering stem in here. Of course, normally it's pushed with press. Well, I don't have a press, so I'm gonna do it my way. Of course, I cannot forget to put the ring. First the ring and then the bearing. But before I do all of that, I need to put some grease in the bearing because this bearing has nothing inside. So I basically have to push the grease inside the bearing, and I'm just gonna do that with my hands like that and like that. I'm gonna work out until grease is inside the bearing. Now, if you ask me now why am I don't using the gloves, well, first of all, I just used the last pair. Second of all, that's just the grease. It's not gonna do any damage to my hands. It actually will help because I'm working every day with the gyps and with the cement. And as you know, cement and the gyps, they very bad for your skin. There is a lot of calcium, mostly in the gyps. So my hands are very damaged. My skin is very dry. So this grease is actually gonna help a lot with my dry hands. So I did work all the grease, almost all the grease in the bearing. Of course, I'm gonna put much more later, but for now that is good. And as you can see, the grease is actually cleaning my dirty hands, which is very good, I would say. Okay, let's install the bearing on the steering stem. So as I mentioned, first ring. Do not forget the ring. I'm gonna put a bit grease on the stem so the bearing goes smoothly in. It's better too much than not enough. And if there is a little bit grease here as well, it will prevent the leaks. Here we go. So basically, I need to put my bearing in there. Let me see if I can use the old drive from the old bearing. Sure I can. That's even better. Yeah, actually that's much better than small chisel or screwdriver, because this drive, there is no chance for me to hit the to check if the bearing is on the end. You just have to try to turn this ring. If the ring is turning, that means that the bearing is not yet in its place. I think we're all the way in. As you can see, the grease came out. No, but the ring is still turning, so a little bit more. It's correct, I cannot move the ring anymore. Of course, I'm gonna use some more grease. You don't need very special grease for that, just regular grease, because these bearings, they're not working on very high speeds or something like that. They just move a little bit. So the grease theoretically is working as a sealant, so everything is waterproof. And of course I need some grease here as well. I need to fill with grease as well the other bearing, which goes from the top. Of course I'm gonna use some grease on the top as well. And now basically I just need to insert the steering stem back into the frame. Let me see. Oh, come on. Now I'm gonna put the top bearing. And then I'm gonna install the lower nut. Our steering stem is in, and I can already feel it is 500% better. Now basically I need to tighten these nuts, but I won't be doing that with torque wrench, because we're not going to do that with the torque. We're just going to do it with the feel. Because if I do it with the torque like it was with the other old bearing, I'm gonna damage everything. So basically I'm gonna do it first with my hands. And then I will look how that feels. It cannot be too tight, but it cannot be not enough. It must be just right. I'm gonna tighten this a little bit with a wrench. All the time I'll be moving the steering stem. Yeah, you just basically need to feel for yourself if that is enough or not. You know for yourself the best how is your steering working. Some people like when it's a bit tight, other ones like very smooth. I'm gonna do it just a little bit more. Okay, I think I'm in the right place right now. It's nice and smooth. It's not too tight, but it's also not very wobbly. But it looks good and it feels good. And so, of course, now I have to use the ring and the other nuts. Let's do it this way. Here we go. course, I can install now the triple clamp. And the big bolt, of course. But I'm not gonna tighten now. I'm gonna do it later when the forks are in. Bearings are replaced. All what I need to do is to install everything in the reverse order. So let's do that. I will explain you in a moment how you need to do that. So it is quite important that both forks are at the same height in the triple clamps. So basically this needs to be around 3-4 millimeters. That's original. So the lower clamp bolts needs to be tightened with 23 Newtonometers. Steering stem bolt with 110 Newtonometers. And the top clamp bolts with 20 Newtonometers. And as I mentioned, very important, here and on the other side must be exactly the same distance, otherwise your bike is gonna turn one side by itself. Of course, now I need to guide the cables from the forks to its previous position. To be sure that the forks are the same length here, the easiest way is just to measure it. 24.3. Now it's good. So the bearings in the steering stem are replaced, are done. Now everything is working very smooth, no weird jumps there. It is as it should be. As I mentioned earlier, I should have replaced them before in 8 months ago when I was checking them, but they've been not that bad as they've been now. They were completely trashed this time. I could feel that the steering wasn't working smooth. Now this problem is solved. Replacing the bearings is pretty easy job, but of course the whole front of the bike need to be stripped, and that takes quite a lot of time. So as you can see, I still have a lot of things to do. I'm not gonna film that because I did it many times, and there are other videos where you can see where I dismantling or I install things. So there is a whole playlist about Kawasaki Versys. You can find there everything. I just need to clean a little bit and then just install all the fairing, clean the bike nicely, and the bike will go to the new owner. So I will say goodbye to my beloved Versys. The bike is top condition, and I'm happy that it's going to the good home. Me, I'll be a bikeless for a while, no, except for Honda. Honda is gonna be sold as well. I don't know when, so maybe I'm gonna ride a bit Honda until I will find the bike for me. What kind of bike it's gonna be, I don't know, we'll see. I'll be still testing some more bikes, and before summer I definitely will make my decisions. Okay, I will end up now. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked this video. If you did, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. If you like my channel, you can support me by clicking super thanks button below the screen, or you can buy me a coffee. All the information about that are in the description of this video. Thanks again guys for watching, and of course see you in the next one.